Welcome to the class, students. In this session, I would like to deliver a lecture on the poem To Celia, written by Ben Jonson. Song to Celia by Ben Jonson is a beautiful love poem presenting the love the poet has for his beloved. Ben Jonson was a brilliant poet and an impressive soldier. He had a great love for classical learning and he struggled as a playwright. Every Man in His Humor is his first successful play and known for his antagonistic nature. His poetry had a significant impact on 17th century poets and was highly regarded. So the song To Celia is a lyric ballad. It is his most beloved anthologized poem. It was also put to music and thus became a popular song in public houses. The poem was included in the book The Forest, which was published in 1616. Dejection in love was a major theme at that period when Ben Jonson was writing this poem. It's not that it does not have any appeal in the modern era. However, there is a saying, the manifestation changes, but the essence remains the same. A person's feelings for whom he adores the most remain the same. Likewise, in Jonson's song, there is a longing for his lady love. In the end, it proved to be unfruitful as the rosy wreath sent as a gift of love was returned to the poet. The poem begins with the speaker suggesting that his lover drink to him with only her eyes. He will reciprocate this act with his own eyes, pledging himself to her. This wordless communication is extremely intimate and is a suiting introduction to the dynamic which exists between the two. The poet is invested in comparing his love and the indulgent way he participates in it to drinking. He could find her love if she placed it there within a wine glass. In the last part of this stanza, he says that the thirst he has for love could only be sated by the strongest and most divine of drinks. In the second stanza, the speaker describes an interaction that he instigates. The situation is utilized as a perfect representation of how he sees his lover and how they communicate with one another. He sends her a rosy wreath, and instead of keeping it, she sends it back to him after breathing on it. The speaker declares that the smell of the plant has been supplanted by the smells of his lover. So the line 5 and 8, her kiss in the cup is more precious for him than the heavenly nectar. Say he aspires for a drink divine. Drink is a divine that transcends even Jove's nectar. Jove is the god Jupiter and a symbol of divinity in secular poetry. He would not agree for Jove's nectar in exchange for his lady's cup of wine. He elevates her to the status of goddesses. In the next 9 to 12 line, he recently sent his lady a wreath of roses instead of keeping it. So roses are associated with beauty. At the same time, he sent it to her because the wreath would not wither in her presence. There is again the speaker powerful expression which somewhere has a dominant tone. And the next 13 to 16, he speaks of his lady's active connection with nature. He then describes her breath, which is always perfumed. Her perfume transcended the perfume of the roses. She also gives the gift of immortality to the wreath. So, she is returning the wreath, which shows that she is rejecting his offers. For him, her essence in the Rath is more precious than her physical presence. Song to Celia by Ben Jonson is an interesting love poem that encompasses the theme of love. There are two important sub themes. The major theme of love, one is physicality of love, and another is the spirituality of love. The first stanza presents the spiritual aspects of love that generates from the soul of the poetic persona. Here, the poet himself. The poet uses his eyes as a means of communication. It's only possible when two souls are internally connected by the bond of love. There is a divine aspect of love in the first stanza that decays in the next stanza of the poem. In the second stanza, when the poet tries to indulge in the physicality of love, he gets dejected. The rosy wreath is nothing but a symbol representing his physical aspects. The poet tries to eternalize the thing that is prone of withering. Hence, in the end, the lady returned the gift but also sent an implicit message of rejection of such kind of union. For this reason, the poet again takes resources to spiritual love as it sustains even if the lovers are physically far enough or not united. So, the song to Celia by Ben Jonson presents several important literary devices throughout the text. In the first line itself, there is a metaphor. Here, eyes represent something that intoxicating the soul. In another scenario, eyes build trust between a lover and his beloved. In the line, and I will not look for wine, the poet employs a literary devices called litotes. The poet presents another metaphor in the word thrust. It refers to spiritual thirst or yearning. Likewise, there is a metaphor in the praise drunk, divine. The poet uses an allusion by using the phrase Joe's nectar, soup. So next, the poet uses a metonymy in the phrase rosy wrath. It is a symbol of the physical aspects of love that is prone to be withered. In the last two lines, the poet uses a paradox. In the reality, the wreath of roses did not smell like his beloved, but the poet can sense it through his mind. The poet refers to the smell of his lady love, not a physical sensation. It is mental and imaginative that can only be felt by a true lover. So, the two stanza poem that is separated into sets of 8 lines. This piece follows a consistent and structured pattern of rhyme that conforms to the pattern of A B C B A B C B D E F E E E F E. The choice to use the rhyme scheme allowed the poet to unite lines that are scattered in their indentation and length. The repeated use of EE as an ending has been utilized to emphasize lines 4, 5, 6 in the second stanza. These lines are the climax of the speaker's narrative and provide a fitting ending to the plays. Next, the style meant to communicate. This style gives his poetry a directness, practicality, and even seriousness and force. It's marked by dominant intelligence. One of the finest love poems of that particular age. Um, and overall, um, it is a romance poem. In 1660, after the first publication of this poem, it affirmed Jonson's positions as one of the court's most distinguished poets. He was appointed Poet Laureate of England. Um, in conclusion, the speaker moves to um, one from the idea of communicating through glances in the each lines of the poem. He wants to, the poet tries to bring out the idea that uh, the speaker's uh, lover did not react. She did not keep it as a monument to their love, but instead chose to send it back to him after breathing on it. She did this intentionally, knowing how he would be impacted by it. So, so, in conclusion, we are not totally sure how much Celia likes the speaker, though. He tells us about how he sent her a wreath of flowers once, but she returned it. The cool thing is that even though she returned the wreath, it never wilted. Somehow, Celia breathing on the wreath has given it eternal life. Thank you for listening.